Chapter 24. The Laws on Leprosy, Leviticus 13, 1-59. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab or bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priests. And the priest shall look in the plague in the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, and the plague in sight be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is a plague of leprosy, and the priest shall look on him, and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it have turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. But when the raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall see the raw flesh, and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean. It is a leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed unto white, he shall come unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. He is clean. The flesh also, in which, even in the skin thereof, was a boil, and is healed, and in the place of the boil there be a white rising, or a bright spot, white and somewhat reddish, and it be showed to the priest. And if, when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be any flesh in the skin whereof there is a hot burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning, wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days, and the priest shall look upon him the 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not in his skin, but it be somewhat dark, it is a rising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is an inflammation of the burning. If a man or woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scall, even a leprosy upon the head or beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold, it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that hath the plague of the skull 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the skull spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull be not in sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, and the skull shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut up him that hath the skull 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the skull be in his sight at a stay, and that there is black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. And he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald, yet is he clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head, or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean, his plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the warp or woof of linen or of woolen, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin, and if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garments or in the skin, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall be showed unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look in the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garments, either in the warp or in the woof, or in a skin, or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in woolen or in linen, or anything of skin wherein the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look in the plague, after that it is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed his colour, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garments, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garments, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in any thing of skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, whether warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy, in a garment of woolen or linen, either in the warp or woof or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean. Leviticus 13, 1-59. In Leviticus 13 and 14, we have extensive and specific legislation on what is called in the English leprosy. This term is misleading. First of all, words change their meanings or are applied to different objects as time passes. The older term, rheumatism, is now obsolete, although it was once a good medical term. Arthritis replaced it, and one doctor has predicted that this latter term, because it describes several ailments, will in turn be replaced. Other instances of words with changed meanings include buffalo. The American buffalo is actually bison. Second, the English word leprosy comes not from the Hebrew text, but from the Greek lepra, which in Greek referred to a disease very unlike those described in Leviticus 13. Third, as Wenham has pointed out, in Leviticus 13, a variety of diseases are described, 21 different cases in verses 2-46, and 3 in verses 47-58. Fourth, what we now call leprosy or Hansen's disease may have been unknown before the 5th century AD. According to Harrison, however, clinical leprosy was known in Mesopotamia in the 3rd millennium BC, and one case in an Egyptian mummy is said to be documented. However, the evidence seems clear that Hansen's disease is not the subject of this chapter. Moreover, the evidence points to a variety of related ailments covered by the one general word, in English leprosy. Nordsey noted, the Meshua, Nagaium 1:4, thus asserts that there were no fewer than 16, 36, or even 72 types of Sarahet, and this could never be the case if the term referred solely to leprosy. Fifth, many medical and biblical scholars have sought to identify the ailments described with limited success. It is not unreasonable to assume that many of these ailments are no longer with us, hence to assume that they must be identified in terms of diseases we know is perhaps an error. What we do know, according to Hertz, is that the leper suffered from a physical infirmity. This infirmity barred him from the sanctuary. While so infirm, he was accounted as dead with respect to membership in the kingdom of priests, since physical defects disqualified a priest. On recovery, the man was formally rededicated as a covenant man. The text is very precise in providing the means of diagnosis. The priest thus had a medical function. It is important to note that the concern is for the welfare of the family and the community. Neither can be sacrificed out of pity for the victim. It is thus noteworthy that we have here the source of the idea of quarantine. The concept is biblical. As applied by Orthodox Jews and by Orthodox Christians, it has included the quarantine not only of infected persons, but also of infected animals and plants. The quarantine of ships is a centuries-old practice. Quarantine laws can, where required, supersede property rights. Such laws have been important in the development and progress of Christendom over other areas. It is significant that a concern for quarantine laws declines as biblical faith wanes. We must recognize that there is a correlation between the decline of quarantine and the decline of a victim's rights. The criminal has been given more and more rights by the courts, and the victim's right to restitution has declined with the rise of modernism. Quarantine, it should be noted, is a moral fact. It asserts that there is a good and an evil response to a situation. Quarantine does not say that the sick man is evil, but that to expose others to a serious illness or disease is evil, and therefore separation is good, healthy, and necessary. To punish or execute criminals and to require restitution is a form of quarantine in that it separates wrongdoers by court action and judgment from the rest of the population until either execution is carried out or restitution is made. It is not an accident that quarantine is under attack and that it is not used with respect to the AIDS epidemic. It is a logical concomitant of the moral relativism of our time. In verses 1 to 8, before a confirmed diagnosis, there was a week of isolation pending further medical evidence. At the end of that time, there was either a discharge from quarantine or an exclusion from community life. Some forms of these ailments infected clothing. The clothing had to be quarantined also, inspected after a week, and then either washed and restored or else burned. Verses 47 to 59. We are ignorant of the nature of these infections. Tests of the persons apparently infected concentrated on the skin and the scalp, and also the hair. On occasion, the quarantine could be continued for another 7 days. Verse 33. It was recognized that contagion could be spread by both contact, hence isolation, and also by breathing, and hence the necessity of covering the mouth. Verse 45. No one, however important, was exempt from quarantine. It was applied even to Miriam, Moses' sister, for 1 week. Numbers 12, 9 following. The priest had a part here, even though doctors were common enough in antiquity, because the priest is the guardian of the faith and of the sanctuary. Whoever else took part in the diagnosis, it was therefore the priest to pronounce the decision. The total health of the people had to be his governing concern, both spiritual and physical health. An exclusively spiritual concern meant an abdication of responsibility. G. Campbell Morgan said of this chapter and its regulations, "In the instructions, 2 principles of perpetual importance are manifested. The first is the necessity for guarding the general health of the community, and the second is that no injustice be done to the individual in the interest of the community. These 2 principles are perpetual in their application." Morgan was right on both counts. However, these laws had as their essential purpose the holiness of God's kingdom and covenant people. Animals used in sacrifice had to be unblemished. The priests had to be whole men, undeformed and morally upright. Sanitation was set forth in God's law as an aspect of holiness. The rigorous nature of these laws is noteworthy. Soon after they were given, Miriam, Moses' sister, was barred from the community for a week. Although Uzziah was one of Judah's greatest kings, he was, after being stricken with leprosy, kept in a several house, being a leper. 2 Chronicles 26:21. That is, in a segregated house. In non-biblical cultures, such quarantines were not normal, and emphatically not the case for powerful rulers. A very common temptation of many older commentators has been to read all kinds of meanings into the text. The starting point is usually the fact that these ailments called leprosy mean a form of living death, and hence leprosy is made a type of death. So much is true up to a very limited point, but the simple and blunt fact is that we have here laws governing an important area of personal health and community safety. The text means nothing more. Calvin gave healthy correctives to such misinterpretations, one too seldom heeded. He said in part, "I am aware how greatly interpreters differ from each other and how variously they twist whatever Moses has written about leprosy. Some are too eagerly devoted to allegories. Some think that God, as a prudent legislator, merely gave a commandment of a sanitary nature in order that a contagious disease should not spread among his people. This notion, however, is very poor and almost unmeaning, and is briefly refuted by Moses himself, both where he recounts the history of Miriam's leprosy and also where he assigns the cause why lepers should be put out of the camp, that is to say, that they might not defile the camp in which God dwells, whilst he ranks them with those that have an issue and that are defiled by the dead. Thus, there are two extremes which must be avoided. First, we must not see these as allegorical statements and thus neglect their plain and obvious meaning. These are sanitary regulations. Second, we cannot see these laws as merely sanitary rules. They are a part of the laws of holiness and laws of clean and unclean. Although they are terms having a physical as well as a moral and spiritual implication, they have an essential relationship always to holiness. The goal of God's creation is a mature and godly man developing, in religious and physical health, all the potentialities of his being and of the material world around him. All God's laws have this focus and purpose.